The fourth unit of this course will examine the major events of the mid-20th century. You will analyze photographs and documents to learn about the Bracero program and the people involved. You will examine two civil rights laws written a century apart to examine how our understanding and protection of rights and equality changed over time. You will learn about the broader civil rights movement as American Indians, Chicanos, Chicanas, Asian Americans, women, and African Americans campaigned for greater equality. You will also examine the social and political reaction to the rights movements and counterculture of the 1960s. Finally, you will look back across the entire course to develop an argument for what you believe were the most influential events, people, or ideas in the development of the United States. You will use your critical thinking and analytical skills to present your points in a supported argument. The military-industrial complex needed to fight the Cold War and provide benefits such as the GI Bill spurred a period of prosperity in the 1950s. Technological development for war was transferred to civilian use. The labor needed during and after the war years led to the creation of the Bracero program, bringing workers from Mexico at low wages. The 1950s also saw new gains for the civil rights movement, with legal victories like Brown versus Board of Education, and the success of the Montgomery bus boycott. The 1960s were the heyday of the civil rights movement. Multiple organizations, old and new, adults and students, North and South, worked to end Jim Crow segregation and discrimination. The movement extended beyond the South, tackling discrimination against Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, women, and African Americans who lived outside the South. Tactics ranged from nonviolent sit-ins and marches to direct confrontation. President Lyndon Johnson also launched a war on poverty. In the late 1960s and 1970s, the nation faced the strains of ongoing war in Vietnam, which contributed to a credibility gap and an increasing lack of faith in the federal government. The election of Richard Nixon as president in 1968 indicated a shift in federal policies. The Nixon Doctrine moved the U.S. Cold War policy towards détente, developing better relations with the Soviet Union and with China. Nixon's administration, however, ended with his resignation following the Watergate scandal. An economic crash and deindustrialization highlighted problems that faced the nation in the closing decades of the 20th century.